Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Uriah want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashema Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, doing everything they can do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand, to wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty akwaf in this thing, that actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers, on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty akwaf that are not married as of yet, building themselves up, doing everything they can do to magnify the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, right? Abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, reading, praying, fasting, magnifying Yahweh and his beloved son, Yahweh Shah. But it's going to be a rapid fire Q&A. So I might go for maybe like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You know, it's dependent on the spirit. You know, as the questions come in, right, we're going to tackle them through the mercies of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, right? And we're going to dive straight into it. Right, like I said, whatever, you know, brothers' questions don't get answered, most are willing, we could do another Q&A. All right, let's dive into it. All right, first question. All right, so like, I'm going to share my screen. Give me a strong con if brothers can see it. All right, give me a strong con. Right, if brothers can see the screen. All right, then we jumping straight into it. Now, the question was, you know, I'm going to see if I can read it. You know, it says, can you break down Revelations 1 and 8 and give the sense? I don't know why Christians use that for oneness, right? Okay, let's go into it. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse number 8. You know, see, one thing about Christians is they'll never understand prophecy. So if you want to take a Christian, you know, spiritually out to destroy them and literally just take everything from them of what they think they have, take them out in the waters of prophecy, man. I guarantee you they can't swim. I guarantee you all those people that are relaxing in the jacuzzi where it's comfortable, they standing up, they doing their exercises, right? They going like this, they coming back up, they playing all in the waters. Take them all out in that deep end, man. See, the deep end is where the waters, where the chosen can only dwell, man. They can only swim where it's deep. The Most High has hidden things, has things covered and concealed, and is only giving them to a select amount of people, man. Like, this truth and this understanding is not for these Christians, man, that love their oppressors, love their enemies, and of these nations that have no understanding of who Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is. This is the book of Revelations, right? Chapter 1 and verse number 8. I am Alpha and Omega, right? That's Greek for beginning and end. The beginning and the ending. So this is Yahweh Shah speaking. Now, I'm not sure, you know, what doctrine the Christians have with this. You know, we could just go into it. But nevertheless, Yahweh Shah, he's the beginning, right? And he's the end, right? What is that talking about? Well, I don't want to pull this quick precept, right? This is the book of, let me get this quick precept. So I can bear with me. It's the book of Job, chapter 36 and 26. Behold, God is great, and we know him not. Neither can the number of his years be searched out. So you can't search out the Most High's years. You can't search out the Most High's time, because the Most High supersedes time. He doesn't have a beginning or an end. That's how we know that this is talking about Yahweh Shah, right? The King, right? It says, I am Alpha and Omega, Right at the beginning of everything, man. As we know it, saith the Lord, which is, right, meaning he preexisted, right, and existed way before the earth was created, which is, right, he always was way before we were created. He's the firstborn of every creature, right? Let me get this quick precept in the book of First Peter. It's First Peter chapter 1 and verse number 19. It says, but with the precious blood of the lamb, right? So like blood of Yahweh as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world. So before the foundation of the world stood, right before the elements were created, the fire, the wind, all the things that we know it, the matter that the world is made out of, right? In the blowable winds, Yahweh existed, but was manifest in these last times for you, right? So when you're reading it, it says which is, and right, which was, and which is to come, right? So he was on earth, right? He was before the foundation of the earth, and which is to come, meaning his second coming, right? As he comes to earth to destroy it, right? If you want to elaborate more on a Christian's doctrine that they, may use, we could dive more into it, but that's, what that precept is talking about, right? Let's go into it. Next question. Isaiah chapter 42 and 8, the Most High says, I will not give my glory to another, yet in the kingdom will not glory be given to Yahweh Shai. What sense of the glory does he mean? Okay, let's go into it, man. See, when you read Isaiah, you have to understand one thing, the context. The context is going to understand, or have you to understand, rather, what the Lord is talking about. Now, during the time of Isaiah, right from, chapters, 42 all the way up to, 45-ish all the way out, what was going on in those chapters? Idol worship. Let's go into it. It's the book of Isaiah, right? Chapter 42 and 8, like you said. It says, I am the Lord. That is my name, and my glory will not like give to another. Right? That's not talking about Yahweh Shai. It's not talking about that. Right? When you start at, I'm gonna start at verse number 6. I the Lord have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thy hand, and will keep thee and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light to the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out of prison, right? For like prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison houses. So who's doing all of this? The Most High is, man, through Yahweh Shah. The Most High is the one opening out, right, the gate to the prison. He the one that giving you understanding. He the one pouring out waters in the wilderness. He won't give his glory unto an idol, to a tree stump, right, to a rock, to a stone, to a nation. Because many people can, praise so-called Abraham Lincoln for so-called freeing the slaves, or praise Joe Biden for passing his law, or praise this man carnally when they don't understand the works of who's really doing these things. So the Most High saying, look, I'm not going to give my glory unto another, right, when these things come to pass. It says, it's the point, I would not give my glory unto another, neither my praise to graven images. So really the answer, brother, is within the same exact precept, right? Like I said, when you go to Isaiah, these chapters 43, 44, diving into the context, the Lord is going into salvation and idol worship. But let's go to Isaiah chapter 46, right? This is Isaiah chapter 46, right? And I'm going to start at verse number 10. So like I'm going to start at 6. It says, I'm going to start at 5. To whom will ye liken me and make me equal? So when the Lord said, I'm not going to give my glory to another, he's often saying this within like the 40th chapters on out. Who are you going to make me equal to? What glory can I give to another? Who can rise up to be like me? That's what the Most High is really going into. It says, and compare me that we may be alike, right? Be like. They lavish gold out of the bag and weigh silver in the balance and hire goldsmiths, and he that maketh it a god. So when the Lord said, I'm not going to give my glory to another, the other is an idol, a god that they worship, that people were making the Lord equal unto, right? Of the things that were coming to pass. It says they fall down, yet they worship. They bear him upon a shoulder, and they carry him and set him in a place, right? And he standeth from his place shall he not be removed. Yea, one cried unto him, yet can he not answer nor save him out of trouble. So the trouble of the Most High saving you out of, he's not going to give that glory unto a daggone idol, man. Remember this, and shew yourselves men, bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors. What's being brought to mind? That I'm the one saving you. I'm the one doing this. Bring to mind the things that I'm doing and stop giving my glory unto another. That's really what it's going into. All right, we're diving into the next question. Right, Conor Beckler. Right, can you give a quick breakdown on sex being marriage? What precepts, right, to go to? Right, I mean, brothers did an in-depth breakdown on the Cold Cuts channel on the initiation, right, and the consummation of marriage. And yes, marriage, sex is marriage. For all of them that don't understand that, don't believe that, and their quick thoughts or their quick cuts to that doctrine that they think is false, right, or whatever the case may be. And doctrine just means teaching, right? So the understanding to that is, well, how can you fornicate then? Or how can they throw up these, or you just making whores out of the daughter of Zion? First and foremost, all women are supposed to be virgins. And in their virginity, why did the Most High make, when you consummate, right, and you lay down and you have sex with that woman, for the issue out blood? Because blood is in covenant that you make with the flesh, right? You may have a covenant that you make, as far as marriage, or whatever the case may be. Even in the law, everything is purged by blood. They threw blood over the vessels, blood over the people, and they entered into that covenant when you read the book of Exodus, right? The 24th chapter, right? The 34th chapter. And you actually going into these things, right? Yahweh Shai, he died for our sins, made a covenant with blood. Blood is always a covenant that's being formed and made. Now, a lot of women, they have been in the world, right? They have already lost their virginity, right? But they're reborn. And we practice the righteous acts and the precepts of aforetime. Just because your woman doesn't necessarily bleed when you go into her doesn't take away the fact that you're issuing and practicing that covenant being made, right? Let me dive into this quick precept. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. It's 1 Corinthians, right, chapter 7, in verse number 28. It says, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, she shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. But this I say, brethren, time is short, right? Right. Let me scoot down just a little bit more through the spirit. I'm gonna start at verse number 33. But he that is married care for the things, right, that are of the world, how he may please his wife. There is a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman care for the things of the Lord, right, that she may be holy, both in body and spirit. But she that is married care for the things of the world, how she may please her husband, right? And that's exactly what goes on, right? All your glory and the things that you once had of yourself now become the glory of your husband and the things he wants to do. And this I speak for your own profit, not that I may cast a snare upon you, right? But for that which is comely, right? And that you may attend unto the Lord without distraction. But and if a man think he behave himself uncomely toward his virgin. Now this is a father. His virgin meaning his daughter. Meaning it's this man's responsibility to give his daughter unto a righteous man, unto a man of understanding, a man of counsel, man of wisdom, right? And as he does that, he gets a dowry. He gets a payment because he's been building up this sister, his daughter, all his time, teaching her how to cook, clean, be submissive, how to be under a man. Because from the foundation of the earth, it was never presented for a woman to be alone. These women out here that are alone is by time and by chance, by curses and by not knowing the Lord, right? Their fathers not knowing the Lord and them not knowing the Lord, which breeds division. It breeds a mechanism of a woman to be strong and independent on her own because she doesn't have a man to depend on. Now you have to survive. You can't be foolish. But from the foundation of the earth, it's always been a father and that daughter. No matter how old she is, whether she's 19, 20, 25, he can hold her until he feels like she's right for marriage. It's not talking about, he's just being selfish. He wants to make sure her mentality is right to be able to care for this brother, right, and his children that they're going to make and be off, right, without worrying about going to house. It says, if she passed the flower of her age and need so require, let him do so. Right? Let him do what he will. He said, if not, let them marry. Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart have no necessity, but have power of his own will, and have so decreed it in his heart that he will keep his virgin, right, doeth well. So from the foundation, man was supposed to keep his virgin. Right? You weren't not supposed to let your daughter sneak out and her boyfriend coming downstairs, and as long as he slip you a little weed in the bag, you ain't saying nothing. And he knock on the door twice, and the front door, your father go see where the front door is. He's sneaking in the back door. Then he go back down, he flop on the couch, and he finish watching the game. Right? A lot of people too lackadaisical, man. And the Lord said, have care over your daughters. That's a real heavy matter. Got a lot of daughters and women, they become whores. Right? They're following behind the footsteps, right, of the wicked. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 7, 24. Has thou daughters, have care of their body, and shew not thyself cheerful, right, towards them. Marry thy daughter, meaning it's a man's responsibility to give away his virgin. And as you do that, you understand, you don't have to walk down an aisle. You don't have to physically do these things. Because we're betrothed. And in the law, in Deuteronomy chapter 22, and I'm going to go into it, betrothment means you're married. The consummation of marriage means you're married, right? So marriage in a sense of walking down the aisle, sipping wine, having your brothers-in-law and all your sisters and everybody cha-cha slide and two-stepping, right? That's all of what? That's by choice. You don't have to do those things. You telling me we were in sin as a people for 400 years in slavery because we may not have had the opportunity to walk down the aisle? Just because the so-called white man doesn't give you a piece of paper, man? What if there was no paper? What if you were on the run? What if a lot of things before chanced our people? There's never a time where we needed the nations to keep the laws of God. And that's what a lot of our people do, man. A lot of our people, they think they need Esau's approval, Esau's awareness, or Esau's guidance on the laws of the Most High. These laws supersede his birth, man. It says, marry thy daughter, and so thou shalt have performed a weightier matter, but give her to a man of understanding. Now, like I said, I'm gonna get probably one more on this, but nevertheless, we have a whole breakdown on it. I believe it's on the Backup Cold Cuts channel, right? Let me see. Let me get this real fast. Yeah, I mean, you just got to dive into it. Like that search game got to be crazy, right? And you just search those things up. It's on there, and it's on the Resurrected channel also, right? And also, we got another one on Flower of Her Age. I don't know if that's going to pop up, but that's on her too. Right? What's the Flower of Her Age? Marriage in the Ancient World, Flower of Her Age explained. So, that's a in-depth breakdown. Like I said, King, time won't, prevail in this situation and dive in depthly into it. But I wanted to go to Deuteronomy chapter 22, and I'm going to start at verse. I'm going to start at, this whole thing is fire. 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her, right, shall die. But unto the damsel thou shalt be nothing. There is a damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, so even so is this matter. For he found in a field betrothed, damsel cried. So a woman that's betrothed can actually be what? She's married, man. So you have a betrothal, right? Meaning that woman belongs to that man and is promised to that man. Because marriage is vows and consummation. You vow yourself unto that man, which literally links the betrothal together through a vow. And you lay down and you consummate through blood and a covenant by laying down sexually. That's what a marriage is. You don't have to have a so-called preacher present, right? With that long robe on, right? Now, I'm going to read this real fast. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22, and I'm going to start at 14. It says, I'm going to start at 15. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity. Right? What are the tokens of her virginity, man? The cloth and the blood. So you have to have the token. When you lay down with a woman, you understand? Say you took and you bought this damsel. You laid down with her, you tried to consummate the marriage. There's no tokens behind it. There's no blood on the napkin. There's nothing to really show forth to the elders of the city and or to the father or anybody a witness of this woman being a virgin. So therefore, that man that bought her was deceived either by the father or by the whore's daughter, and all hell will break loose, and you'll bring up to the elders, and it'll be a big deal in Israel. So the tokens of the virginity is everything. So it's always for the father to give away his daughter. Right. So, I mean, that's just, like I said, a couple precepts, but, I would dive in depthly on that lesson. And this brother getting in there, man. Right. It says, what is Romans 14 and 4 through 6 going into? All right, let's go into it. Right. It's the book of Romans, chapter 14, and verse, what is it? 4 through 6. Right. It says, who art thou that judgest, right, other man's servant to his own master? Right. He standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holding up, for God is able to make him stand. So when you read Romans, the 14th chapter, it's really going into them that are weak in the faith, right? And going into things, right, that you eat. Now I want to read this 1 through 7, 1 through 6, and break it down and get a sense. It says, him that is weak in the faith receive you. Meaning a man may be weak in the understanding of eating meats, right? He may be weak in the faith. He may not have the ability of another brother being strong-minded to be able to pray over it. Brother may think something's wrong with it, or he may not know. He may not be fully convinced in his mind. Hey, the Most High said, to him that is weak, receive you, but not to doubtful disputations, man. Right? It says, for one believeth that he may eat all things. Another who is weak eateth herbs. Now, all things isn't talking about pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. He believeth he can eat all things, meaning what? When you're going into the history of what this is talking about, you had a lot of doctrines during this time. Right, I'm going to get this quick precept. This is 1 Timothy chapter 4, right? And I'm going to start at verse number 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So one of the doctrines of devils is what? Right? Verse number 3, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats. So that was one of the doctrines that was going on, man. You couldn't eat meat. And to this very day, a lot of people say, look, I'm not eating meat. Right? I'm on this health wave, and all you eat is bananas and oranges and apples, and ain't nothing wrong with that. And if that's how you get down, all praise to the Most High. It's a very healthy way of living, right? But there's nothing wrong and there's no sin in eating meats, man. Right? Not at all. It says, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of God is good. Right? Meaning what? There's not a creature the Lord has created that is clean that's bad. It's not going to corrupt you. It's not going to overthrow you. See, certain people's faith, they can only eat herbs because they were weak in the understanding because of this doctrine and was being pushed. So, I mean, knowing the history of the churches, knowing why these things were said, help you to link up the understanding. Right? Everything you read necessarily isn't always just in context to understand it. You have to go abroad. Well, what was the doctrine during that time? Does this book link up with that book? Does this precept link up with this precept? For every creature of God is good and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving. This is the point. For it was sanctified by the word of God and prayer, right? Meaning, no matter what has happened to the meat, right? Because you have butchers, you have a lot of things that may be unclean. You may have had, and when I say unclean, I don't mean pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. You may have had meat that's been sitting out too long. You may have had a butcher, right? He's mixing this knife and he's cutting this and he didn't wash it off, and now he's chopping into some other meat. It's a lot of wickedness going on behind closed doors, man. Right? It's a lot of things going on that may have been sacrificed to an idol and you have no idea, right? You have no understanding about it. So, I mean, a lot of things go on behind the closed doors, and you might be at 50-50. I mean, is this clean? Is it not? Was it sacrificed to an idol? Was it not? Was it mixed with blood? And, what the hell is it? Is it deformed? Right? Does it have a deformity? Right? Was it beaten? Or was it killed justly? Was it strangled? I don't know. And these thoughts will overthrow you. And men were going around saying it's better for you just not to eat no meat at all. So it was overthrowing a lot of men right during this time. But Paul, through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, told those men, you're sanctifying the meat and cleansing it. Because you still have a lot of animals that urine over a lot of herbs, man. You have a lot of pesticides. So the same way things are unclean with meat, it could be unclean with herbs too. So you don't want to be too over righteous. It's going to overthrow your soul and your spirit, right? You'll be a fool, right? Let me get this quick precept. Matter of fact, let me go back to this. This Romans, right? Chapter 14 and verse 3. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not. So don't let, the brother give you an evil eye just because you're not getting down, man. And you weak, right? Look at this brother, man. He's scared, man. What you think is going to bite you? What you have no faith in the Lord or something, man? What you not strong in the spirit? It says, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth. Meaning, you foolish man, you. Right? You nibbling on a herb over there. You foolish. That's probably sacrifice, Right? They murmur, got the herb click and the meat click. It says, for God have received, right, him. Right? Meaning what? He has given him mercy. Who art thou that judges another man's servant, man? Meaning it's that man's servant, right? Who are you to judge him? See, a servant may do something presumptuous, and you may say that you need to beat him 7 times, man. You need to whoop him 7 stripes. Who are you to judge that, man? In the law, when you are chastised or judged or beaten, rather, you're beaten by what? The judges. You can't presumptuously kick down the door and say he needs 39 stripes, save one. And the brother just got caught, doing something slight. The judges may not even feel like they need to beat him. Who are you to judge another man? I can't judge another man's child. He may scrape on the walls. He may urine all on the pillows. And, I may have jacked him up and whooped him. But that father may not have done that. He may have said, you know what, no TV for a week. Or now I can't judge another man. That's his portion. That's really what it's going into. This is Deuteronomy chapter 25 and verse number 1. If there be controversy between men, and there come unto right judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Right? So who's supposed to be the one, right, to condemn? The judges. They're set over that. You can't kick down the door and judge in matters that don't pertain to you. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten. Who determines that? The judges. That the judge shall cause him to lie down. So what if the controversy comes and the man of who the controversy is against, he says he needs to be whipped 45 times or 65 times? I mean, you really can't judge matters that don't pertain to you because emotions may be involved or, God knows worse. Just to get a quick precept, who art thou that judges another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall uphold it, so like it be upholding up, for God is able to make him stand. So Paul, through the spirit of Yahweh Shai, is given like a parable or a comparison rather to a judge of another man's servant and how you judge of meats. It says one man esteemeth one day above another. Meaning my Friday, right, could be the best day of my week because that's the end of captivity for a second. And I could be able to relax and enter into the Sabbath day and be at peace and be at rest. Another brother, he can liken Tuesday because Tuesday he has the day off, right? And Tuesdays he finally gets to sleep. His Tuesday is above my Friday in his eyes because my Tuesday, I have to be on the plantation. So one man could really esteem another day above another. It says, another esteemeth every day alike. Meaning some people just don't care. They just going with the motions. Every day is the same. It says, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. So again, 4 and 5 are a comparison, right, of 1 through 3. Let you be persuaded in your own mind, meaning if you feel in your mind eating is wrong, then that's what smokes your heart. And men can't judge you on that matter because it don't pertain unto them. It pertains unto you, right? Whether you're weak, you shy, you unsure, you overthrown, that's that man, and you're another man, right? Verse 6, he that regardeth a day regardeth it unto the Lord, right? And this is not talking about you can make up your Hawashai day, man. This is not what this is saying, right? He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord. You just make up days, man, right? It says, and he that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he do not regard it. So it's really up to that man's understanding. A lot of people may hold, let's say this feast day on the 14th or the 11th or the 10th, and another one may hold it on the 11th, right? A day after, right? The way you regard the day unto the Lord is that man, his decision, his understanding. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, right? He eateth not and giveth not God thanks. So if you eateth unto the Lord, what are you doing? You're sanctifying it. You're eating unto the Lord, and He's cleansing it, and you're giving Him the reverence and the praise by the things you're unsure of, right? But certain people, He don't eat unto the Lord because He don't really have that faith for it to be sanctified, and you can't hold that against that man, right? That's really what that's going into, right? We getting another one. Right, this is the book Slakia. This is the question. What is Galatians 4:22 through 31 going into? Galatians 4:22. All right. And it reads, for it is written that Abraham had two sons, right? The one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. Right. So this is for lack of terms, a parable, right? Going into Abraham's two sons, right? It says the one by a bondmaid, right, Hagar, and the other by a free one, right, sir? So you have two women that make up the parable of being in bondage and being free, right? It says, but he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. So what is really going into when you actually diving into it is the law. See, the law bound your flesh. There's really no promise for the law to set you free. You're bound under the law, that if you don't keep the law, you'll be destroyed. There's no freedom. There's no promise. There's no help. There's no mercy. If you don't regard, keep, and fulfill all the aspects of the law, you'll die just like you do in a mortal body and flesh. Only thing we have in this flesh is a promise of immortality in a new body. But everything in this flesh, like Paul said in Romans the 7th chapter, is corruptible. I know in me dwelleth no good thing. So this flesh, it could cut, it could bleed. I could break a bone. I'm liable to think lewd thoughts, right? I can get overthrown. I could be bugged out, right? This flesh ain't nothing good, right? That bond woman ain't nothing good, man. Right on a threefold level, right? You got the heathens, right, and you got your lineage. You got the flesh, and you got the law, right? You have bondage, and you have mercy and a promise. It says, but he of the free woman was by promise. So the promises went to Sarah and her lineage, right? Through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all the way down. So from her came the promises, the blessings, and the mercy. But of Hagar, right, what do you really have? But what? Bondage, man. Right? And she was literally a bondmaid on top of that. She really didn't have any hope of anything, right, in her lot, in her life. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 16, and verse number 1. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children. And this is twofold again because Sarah had what? She had faith. And the Most High gave her that. That's Romans 11 and 11. Now, let me get that real fast. It's like your Hebrews 11 and 11. It's Hebrews 11 and 11. It says, through faith, also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed. So was it through the flesh? Was it through bondage? No, it was through freedom. It was through mercy. It was through faith that Sarah herself received strength. So she's able to do things unseekable, unfindable, and that you really can't do in this body through the mercy of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, through faith. And through faith, we could get delivered through the bondage of this law, man. Not to say we don't have to keep the law anymore, but we're destroyed in keeping the law because the sting of death is the law, right? Like it says in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. Now, Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare them no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar, right? Meaning what? She was a handmaid. That represents the bondage. The free woman represents Sarah because she was never a bondmaid, right? Going back to 24, which things are an allegory, right? Meaning a parable, something to look upon, right? Why use Sarah and why use Hagar? These things are an allegory. For these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth bondage, right? So you have Mount Sinai, right, which represents the mountains, represents dust, right? Represents, it's like Mount Sinai. Yeah, we're from Mount Sinai, but in this context, it's a mountain. Right. Look at this. That ain't too much you want to be. Ain't no life there. Ain't really no hope there. You can slip and fall there. Ain't really no green grass there, man. Yeah, we traveled and we were here in the wilderness, but this ain't really where you want to be. So when it says which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth bondage, which is Agar. So this allegory of it gendering bondage, right, represents what? Hardness. When you're actually going to dust, you can't breathe. It's wind kicking up, sneezing, fall off the cliff, you break your bones. Really ain't no help here. Why you with doleful creatures? The law is good and perfect, but it's meant for you to fall. No man on this earth can say he's never sinned, but Yahweh Shah. Going back to it, it says, which gendereth bondage, which is Agar, right? For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, right? And entereth to Jerusalem, right? Meaning it yields itself under Jerusalem because Jerusalem has the preeminence, right? On, a lot of levels, higher mountains, right? The promises, the mercies, right? With a chosen, which is now and is in bondage with her children, right? So, let me see how much the brother wanted me to break down to 31. Right, it says, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free. Now, Jerusalem represents who? Sarah, because she was free. So you have the two allegories of Mount Sinai and or Mount Arabia, right? Which gender of bondage, rocks, stone, mountains. And then you have Jerusalem, which is above, meaning higher than, right? All of the things that the law could do is free, meaning it gives you mercy. Right? When it says above, that's twofold, man. Right? When you go to the book of Second, let me get this quick precept. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 3, and I'm gonna start at verse number 8. How shall not the manifest the administration of the spirit be rather glorious? So you have the administration of death, and you have the administration, right, of the spirit. Right. Let me start at 6. Who also have made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, right, meaning the law, but of the spirit. For the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. But if the ministration of death written, the ministration of death is the law. It ministers death because you can't keep it. Ministration is really going to like a minister or an act of death. Because why is it called death? And this is why it trips up all the Christians, man. It's not saying that you better not keep that law, you. Why? That's not what that's going to. It's bring forth death. Let me get this quick precept. Right? It's the mighty book of 1 Corinthians. right? Chapter 15 and verse number 55. O death, where is thy sting? Right? Meaning thy power. O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin. Right? So the sting, meaning the feel of death, comes from sin. And the strength of sin is the law. So when you read it backwards, understanding what Paul is actually saying, and a lot of the times when you read Paul's epistles, you know, it may sound strange me saying it, but when you read it backwards, you get a good understanding. You can may not always have the luxury to read it in another translation. Sometimes other translations will jam you up, man. See the law, right? See law, the is sin. So reading it backwards, when you keep the law, it brings forth sin. And sin, right, the strength of it, right, brings forth death. So, you know, through the spirit, sometimes when you read it backwards, you'll kind of understand what Paul is saying, that old English, the way he writes. Like it says, to the unlearned, it'll twist you up, and you may not understand what he's really talking about. So when you're going into it, it brings forth death. So the ministration of death written and engraven in stones, right? It says was glorious, right? It was. So that the children of Israel cannot steadfastly behold the face of Moses. For the glory of his countenance, which glory was to be done away, right? The animal sacrifice, and that the true light may shine, which is truly mercy and grace, right? And faith, which is the true light, which is Yahweh Shah. It was a foreshadowing of a light that was dim, which is Moses. How shall not the ministration of the Spirit be rather glorious? This is the point. Fourth, the ministration of condemnation, right? Destruction, be glory, right? The ministration, the act of, written of, condemnation, meaning death of the law, be glory, which it was. Much more doeth the ministration of righteousness exceed in glory. So it exceeds. So Jerusalem, which is above, is free. It exceeds the bondage, which is the mother of us all. Right? Meaning what? You're born again. You're given an opportunity now to have and be in a new light, right? So you like a mother. What does a mother do? A mother nourishes you. She guides you up. Meaning you were of the law under tutors and teachers until the time appointed of the Son, like you read about in Galatians earlier on in this chapter. It's Galatians chapter 4 and verse 3. Even so, right? I'm gonna start at 2. But under tutors and governors, the tutors and governors are the laws. What do the laws do? They teach you. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Right? Okay, all right, yeah, okay, I gotta do this, okay. Right now you're getting taught. You want the tutors. They're teaching you how to move and where to go until the time appointed of the Father. Right? Until that's not saying after you don't have to keep the law no more. Right? You're under these tutors and governors, meaning they're guiding you and showing you the way of righteousness, like you read about in Deuteronomy 6 and 25. Until Yahweh Shai shows you what true righteousness is. Meaning you strive for that, but when you fall short, the Lord gives you an opportunity to pull you through Yahweh Shai after that appointed time. Even so, we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. The bondage is what? The law. Because a heavy yoke is placed upon the sons of Adam. That heavy yoke is sin. And through sin, we fall by not keeping the law. So there's always a bondage-like spirit and mentality upon us that we need to be set free from. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that they may receive the adoption of sons, meaning you're born again. You have a new birth, right? It's like you're born all over again. So when it says the mother of us all, this is the true mother. This is the true adoption. This is the true bringing home. This is your true nursing. This is how you're going to be brought up from now. You're under tutors and governors until your understanding increases in mercy through Yahweh Shah, right? Brothers, I believe the brother said to 31. Okay, I'm going to read it. For it is written, rejoice thou barren, right? Thou bearest not. Break forth and cry, right? That thou travailest not, for that desolate, right, have many more children than she which have an husband, right? So we just went into that precept. For it is written, rejoice thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, right? And Sarah didn't travail, right? She didn't have that opportunity until mercy was given to her to conceive seed. Now we brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of the promise, because you had Abraham, got Isaac, right, and you had Ishmael. When you actually going into it in the book of Genesis, right? Let me get this quick precept. Genesis chapter, let me see this real fast. 17 and 19. And God said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, right? And thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him, right? So Isaac was of the seed of promise. But, right, as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so now. And that's exactly what happened, right? When you read the book of Genesis, chapter 22. So that's why, like, knowing these accounts help you understand what Paul is talking about. And Paul is so deep because he's a master of the law. He was a Pharisee. That's all he knew. That's all he read. That's all he was conversing in. So it would make sense his parables and his link ups would be to the law, right? This is Genesis chapter 22. So like at 21, that's what I want. It's Genesis chapter 21, and I'm gonna start at verse 9. And Sarah saw, right, the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham mocking, right? So she saw Ishmael mocking, right, and all of the wicked. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondmaid, man, and her son, for the son of this bondmaid shall not be heir with my son, even Isaac. Right? So they were mocking. And that's spiritual because you have the spirit warring against the flesh. Bondage, right? Warring against preeminence and freedom, right? And that mercy. And it's always a battle going on. It was like that with the Pharisees. It was like that with the men that understood, like the 12. It's like that even to this very day with Christianity, right? Being a Protestant, all of these different variances, they're warring about what the truth is. But as then, he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit. Even so is it now. Nevertheless, what saith the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son. Right? We just read it. For the son of the bondwoman shall not be made heir with the son of the free woman. We have to cast out the flesh. That's not saying cast out the law and cast out all the works of the law and be done with the law, but cast out understanding that through the law comes condemnation. Because the Lord's freedom and mercy is going to set you free. Let me get that quick precept in Romans chapter 8 and verse 1. That's what we're casting away. This is Romans chapter 8 and verse 1. There is therefore now no condemnation, because you had the administration of condemnation. The administration of condemnation in 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, was what? The law. There is now no condemnation. Condemnation brings what? Death. To them which are, so like to them which are in Christ. Yahweh who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. So really the flesh is going into their righteousness being of the law. It's not necessarily, going into you smoking weed, although it's double to that which is, and that is the flesh and the mind of the flesh. It says, for the law of the spirit of life, because the law brings forth death, but the law that Yahweh is giving, which brings forth the spirit of life in Yahweh, had made me free from the law of sin and death. What's the law of sin and death? The penalties and judgments of you when you fall short that are laid against you. How many brothers committed adultery, man? Right? How many brothers have done some wicked act or some treacherous thing that you were supposed to die the death of? But through your mercy that you dwell in of the laws of Yahweh, which he has given you, set you free from that bondage, right, that you were set under. Verse 33. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Right? Going into that mother again. Mother of all things, right? Mother of us all. Right? Right. That was a lengthy breakdown. But nevertheless, right? The brother taking up the whole life. All praise to the Most High. Like I said, if we won't get to your question, Most High willing, we could do another Q&A right throughout the week. Right, let's go to the book of Job, chapter 29. Right, what is the book of Job 29 going into? That's a broad question. Job is full of parables and dark sayings. But I will say, when you read the book of Job, chapter 29, it's really just going into, you know, Job be thinking himself in his distress, understanding that no matter how low I am, the Most High is with me. And I wish I had the days back when I was strong and powerful. That's on a contextual level. On another fold level, right? You really have, charity, love, the elect written in Job 29 of Yahushai, washing you. You understand the rivers of oil, the butter, right? I mean, all of this is going into the mercy of Yahushai being bestowed upon the elect as well. So, I mean, like, I can't read the whole chapter. Time wouldn't prevail for me, have me to do that. But that's what that's talking about, right? Can you give the sense of Ephesians 2 and 11? This is Ephesians, right, chapter 2 and verse number 11. Right, he said 11 through 15. Right, it says, wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles, right? Meaning what? Our mind of this world had a Gentile state of mind. Right, we lusted, we were in this world, we cast away the cares of the Lord, and we were no longer really dwelling in the mercy, right, and understanding of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Right, it says, in the flesh, who are called uncircumcised. Right, so them that deny the understanding and the faith of the Lord are classified as uncircumcised. What makes you uncircumcised? You not following the commandments of the Lord, man. So a lot of brothers in this truth that think they're in this truth, they're uncircumcised, man. The thought process that they have and the way they move is a wicked lifestyle. Let's go to Jeremiah real fast, chapter 9. See, the Lord said he will kill the uncircumcised just like he will the heathen. It's Jeremiah chapter 9 and verse 25. Right? It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised, Egypt and Judah and Edom. So the Lord said, look, man, if you uncircumcised, I'm going to judge you just like I do the heathen. And how is the Lord going to judge the heathen? He's going to destroy him, man. Think the Lord's going to show them any mercy? If you uncircumcised, and that's not physical, right? That's spiritual, the circumcision of the heart, taken away of that malice and that evil, right? And being circumcised being what made a covenant with your heart unto the Lord. And you can't uncircumcise yourself. See, that's the one thing about being circumcised. No man is going to dig up that skin that's 20 something, 40 something years old and attach it to himself again. That's impossible. That's lewd. That's wicked. That's unsanitary. And that's just straight up evil. The same way it should be impossible, right, to dig deep into that malice of that heart and pull back those old attributes of that old man. That robber, that killer, that drunkard, right? Whatever spirit that you indulge in, that whoredom in the world, you can't move in it. It says, in the children of Ammon and Moab, and all that are in the uttermost corners, that dwell in the wilderness, for all these nations are uncircumcised, and the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart. So that's what it's going into. It's going into in the heart, by which is called the circumcision of the flesh made by hands, right? That's why it's called the circumcision, right? Because it's made by hands, they snip, whatever the case may be, right? It says that at that time, right, ye were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth. An alien is a foreigner. A foreigner is a stranger, and a stranger is somebody not with the congregation and joining themselves as one body, because the church is the body of the Lord. That's literally the bride of the Lord. It's everything, right? That's our head. So if you're attached from that and you're a stranger, right, it's not a good deal. That's not a good thing. Your mind's going to be of your own, your thoughts, your paths. Everything you take is going to be in order. And the strangers from the covenants and promises, having no hope, without God in the world. But now Yahweh Shai, right, who is sometimes far off, right? Far off, not meaning that, the Lord was 50 miles away, or I mean, you couldn't see him, He was sometimes afar off because you were off, man. Made nigh by the blood of Yahweh Shah. Meaning the Lord would have always been afar off. The Lord always existed. But he seemed afar off, right? But made nigh through the blood. Meaning he broke down that middle wall of perdition, gave you an opportunity, and yanked you up and pulled you through his mercy. It wasn't by our washing, our cleansing, and our perfectness. Because if it wasn't for Yahweh Shah's blood and him dying, he would have always been afar off. No brother could actually behold the truth of what true mercy is, true love is, true understanding of that true light, and these things being manifested. For he is our peace, right? Who have made both one, so like it made both one, and have broken down the middle wall of perdition between us. So what does a wall do? A wall separates. So you had men on this side and the Lord and righteousness on this side, but the Lord broke all of that down that they may dwell with you. Just like the Lord, he ate with the publicans, man. He ate with the harlots. He broke down that wall to save them and help them, right? Salakia, you said to 15. Right, last precept, having abolished in his flesh imminent, right? Even the law of the commandments, right, contained in ordinances for to make in himself of twine one new man, so making peace. It's not saying that the Lord died so you don't have to keep the commandments. It's a lot of evil seducers and wicked men, right, and false apostles that bask in that understanding. And they err in not knowing the scriptures nor the power of the Lord, man. Let me get this quick precept, right? Let me get Colossians. Get this quick precept. This is Colossians, right? Chapter 2. And I'm going to start at verse number 12. Buried with him in baptism, right? Meaning our old man is died off. When ye also are risen with him, right? Through faith, right? Believing in him that he is the true way to bring you righteousness of the operation of God, right? Because it's all of the Most High, who has raised him from the dead, right? And you being dead in your sins. So, I mean, you got a lot of people walking around, breathing, drinking, dancing and moving. They're really dead bodies walking around, man, in the valley of the dry bones. And you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh have he quickened together with him, right? Quicken means to be made alive, having forgiven you all trespasses. So he did what? He wiped away and gave you a clean slate, right? He raised you up from the dead that you may walk after him. That's why Jude says twice dead, plucked up by the roots. Because certain men were saved, washed, but then they died again. They fell back away. Verse 14 is the point. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances. So those ordinances that it's talking about isn't the laws, the statutes, and commandments. That's a very carnal way to look at it. Yeah, it's the laws and statutes and commandments, but it's not talking about you can eat shrimp, crab, lobster, pork. You can defile your sister and your neighbor's wife. The ordinances that were written that were against us was what, man? Right? If you did X, Y, Z, if you died, so like if you were murdered, you would die. Committed adultery, you would get stoned. There's certain laws that are laws unto death. Those laws he blotted out that we may have mercy and not condemnation and death. Those are the ordinances that he blotted out. Not blotting out the Sabbath day, not blotting out, the Passover, not blotting out things that weren't against us. The against us is where we need mercy. Yahweh Shai is only really prevalent to blot out the ordinances that were against us. It says, because, certain things, like the Lord said, if you don't keep the Day of Atonement, you're going to cut you off. That's against us, man. So he gives you mercy. How many times have I not kept the Day of Atonement before I knew about this truth, man? I've been all my teenage years. I didn't come into this truth till I was in my 20s. So, I wasn't born in this truth. I wasn't, 10, 11, 12, keeping the Day of Atonement. I had no idea what the Day of Atonement was. And I could have been cut off forever if it wasn't for Yahweh Shah blotting out these handwritten ordinances that were against me. That was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. So it says, having abolished in his flesh, meaning what? Through the nail. through the blood, right? Even the law of commandments, right? Contend in ordinances to make himself entwine, and one it's like a new man, so making peace. So he made peace, breaking down that wall and giving us that opportunity. All praise to the Most High, right? Right. Taylor C. It says Shabbat Shalom. What does it mean if a wife is not attracted to her husband, whether if he's corny, too touchy, holds grudges, or whatever reason, and how right to go about it, right? So I mean, that sounds like a just balance, to be honest. You're not going to always be attracted and ravished, right, with your significant other all the time, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 11. This is Numbers chapter 11. And matter of fact, I'm going to go to Second Esdras, the first chapter. So I mean, marriage is what up and downs, right? Your woman, she may. Let me see if I can get this picture. I may not be able to get it. Let me see. I may not be able to find it. It was this episode of Martin with Gina. She had rollers in her hair, right? And she was fat. And I think Martin had a dream about it. I ain't gonna be able to find it. Martin had a dream, but it was all. Here's a perfect example. Now, a brother seen Martin, right? They know she went to the dentist. She got jacked up. She talking like this. She talking with a slur. She walking around. While she played the hell out of this character, but you think he was attracted to this man? You may have bad hair days. Hey, your wife, she may, or your husband, his feet may stink, man. He just got off a 10-hour shift. He battling some spirit he's not going to tell you about. He senses the spirit you're in, and he's not in the mood to make up, man. The hell with it, everybody's against me. He may start drinking, right? I mean, spirits conjure up thoughts too. It says, let me get this real fast. Let me get this quick precept. But looking at this, the point I wanted out of all of it is at the end of the episode, he stood up with her. He stood up for her, man. He whooped Ricky Tang, man. Pretty Ricky, what they call him, man. Right? He gave him the uppercut, right? And then they walked out together. And you're not going to always find your significant other, right, attractive all the time. That's not necessarily what I would say possible. It's a whole lot going on, right? And I want to get this real fast. This is Numbers chapter 11 and verse number 5, right? It says, we remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely. So here the Most High, beauty and glory of all, delivered you. Sea opened up, destroyed the Egyptians, did all these mighty wonders. But then once you in the wilderness, you start lusting back after Egypt. Now, keeping everything spiritual, Yahweh Shema Shah is our husband. And we start looking back at another man. We start looking back, the daughter of Zion, at another man, what another man can give you, what thoughts can be like. And, I did this and I ate cucumbers and melons and leeks. You're not going to always find this truth appealing, man. Man, we're going to have to die for it, the Lord's name, right? I mean, the Maccabees, they ate herbs, wild herbs, as they were upon the mountains, as they flee persecution. You're not going to, your children, right? You're not going to always like wiping behind them and they're throwing up, they're crying. You want your time alone. That's a normal feeling, right? To a certain extent of not being completely happy all the time, right? It's just an emotion. Now, if that's an unhealthy emotion and feeling in spirit, maybe is that's another counsel and or precepts and conversation that you really need to examine and have. It says, we remember the fish which we did eat, right, in Egypt freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, and the onions and the garlics. And you may remember, man, the time he got a haircut. You may remember the things that he used to do. He used to put on the oils. You may remember how things used to be different. Or God forbid, you thinking about your old life, things you used to. I remember blah 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 used to take me out on dates. I remember I used to go dancing, and you don't want a spirit to hop on you, because you'll start to hate, deny, and withdraw yourself from the love that is between you and your husband. But now our souls is dried away. And that can happen in a marriage, man. Your soul starts to get dried away. And you start feeling like, why am I here? I'm not having any fun. I'm not, maybe this isn't for me. And you start to, beat yourself up. But now our soul is dried away. And there is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. And the manna represents the bread that came down from the third heaven to the children of Israel. That bread was symbolic of Yahweh Shah. What's more beautiful and glorious to have than to behold the Lord? That was carnally, right? And it was for a foreshelling of a spiritual thing. But nevertheless, you don't want to say there's nothing at all but this Negro in the house, man. Right? There's nothing at all before my eyes. When you read, see, that's the spirit that Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai's wife, right, the daughter of Zion, had toward him. Now, when you look at the Most High, what spirit was he in, man? When his bride denies him, right? Now, not physically, but parabolically, the Most High wept, man. Let's go to 2nd Esdras 1. This 2nd Esdras chapter 1, right, in verse number 9. How long shall I forbear them unto whom I have done so much good? And that's like a broken-hearted thing to say. How long shall I forbear this evil, man? What more can I do for you? I brought you out of Egypt. I destroyed, like it said in verse 10, I destroyed kings for your sake. I removed the nations of Tyre and Zidon. I slain your enemies. Right? Well, what more could I do? And your husband, not saying he isn't trying. I don't know if he's trying. Maybe that's a conversation I got to have. But at some point, if he is, what more can somebody do? Somebody may be gaining weight. Maybe a lot of things go on in a marriage, man. You have to be understanding and merciful. A lot of the times, a marriage has a just balance. You may have all evil and bad and, disputations, anger. You're not finding each other appealing. You're not having that spark. But then, there's always the other side. It's always a just balance. And to rekindle those things is very important in a marriage, man. Right? Lest Satan befalls your mind and overthrows you. It says, how long shall I forbear unto them, whom I have done so much good? So, I mean, like I said, we could really go into it. For the sake of time, I'm not trying to pull too many precepts. But I would say, sister, if you're not finding, your husband attractive or whatever the case may be, I would talk to him. I would sit him down and I would be serious in a submissive way. And I would really voice my concerns. But I wouldn't voice my concerns because oftentimes men, are going one ear and out the other. I would have some type of resolution or plan when I had that conversation. You don't want to just tell a man, hey, yeah, I know. Flicking that Cheeto with that damn M&M in the air and eating it, man, while y'all talking. What do you think about this? Well, let's do this. Well, let's do that. You think if I do this, you could do that? Oftentimes, when you compare yourself with a resolution, that significant other doesn't feel attacked. What if we both go jogging? I'll do it with you. Or you just go jogging. You're going to feel attacked. So however you come about it, I would do it in wisdom, through the spirit, right? I may got time, right, for maybe like one more through the spirit, right? Yetta, my killer, Salaka for pronunciation. Question, will the 2/3 return again after the fire into the next kingdom, right? And we touched on this. See if it'll come up. Yeah, are the 2/3 coming back in the kingdom? What's going to happen in the kingdom? Right. So I would check this whole breakdown out, most high willing, and definitely goes into it. For the sake of time, I'm trying to do rapid fire, right? To touch on as many questions as I can. I'm gonna have to close out in the next, 3 to 5 minutes. Right. So I would check that out. But to answer it, quickly, yes, they are. Right. For them that don't understand that, right? Let me get this quick precept, right? Sirach chapter 4, right? It's the book of Sirach, right? Chapter 4, and I'm going to start at, so I can bear with me, 25. In no wise speak against the truth, but be abashed of the error of thine ignorance. So a lot of things brothers do is they make a quick judgment on things they don't understand. You know, let you be 3 weeks in this truth and somebody tell you that there's a creature named Leviathan, and then you immediately mock it or you immediately speak against it and you don't really have the understanding. Understand first, then rebuke. The Lord said in no wise speak against the truth. Just because, and I'm not talking about the specific brother or sister that asked this, just because you don't understand something doesn't take away from it being true. You know, we can't understand all the works of the Most High. Doesn't take away from His glory. There's a lot of things I think people shake a bad eye at through what they've heard in the streets or what the doctrine and what the popular persuasion of a certain camp may think, but they haven't went into it for themselves. So I will watch that breakdown and dive into it, right? 1,000%. And most are willing, you know, you'll be able to understand, you know, what that's talking about. But I'm gonna get one precept on that, you know, before I go to the next question. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 22 in verse number 14. All right. Right. This is the book of Isaiah, right? And I mean, I really want to read this whole thing. This whole thing is fire, right? And matter of fact, I'm gonna read this whole thing is fire. I ain't gonna read too much. I'm gonna read the point. Verse 14. And it was revealed in mine ears by the Lord of hosts, surely this iniquity shall not be purged from you till ye die. So death brings what? It brings blood. And blood has to be required from people that have not indulged and appreciated the blood of Yahweh Shai. So the blood of Yahweh Shai does what? It covers you. It'll be preposterous to just think men can rape, kill, murder, and just get away with it, right? And then just be born into the kingdom, right? Like a lot of people just think you're just born into the kingdom, right? The kingdom is not some fairy tale place. A kingdom is a rulership set up. You dying has nothing to do with anything. Your death has nothing to do with the kingdom being established. Whether you're wicked or righteous, the Lord's kingdom is going to be established. Yahweh Shai is going to be king. The 12 are going to sit on thrones. I think people put too much preeminence on a mindset of you ruling and being next to your house. That's not going to be for certain people. There are small, that's why you got to understand the rank, the structure, how it's going to take place. You got to really dive into the precepts and really understand what regeneration is and how the 2/3 are going to be delegated. With any government, class, or kingdom, you have ranks and you have order. You have the elites, you have governments, you have presidential, judiciary branches, you have government, you have all of these things. You have your average Joes, you have your Fortune 500 company owners, you have your homeless at Esau. Everything there's a rank in a kingdom. This is Esau's kingdom. In the next rulership, there's going to be a kingdom. Kingdom just means rulership. It's his kingdom, but it's going to be our kingdom. And in our kingdom, a lot of our people, you understand that, you know, have been lost are going to come back. It's not saying that the Lord is going to destroy, right, all of his people, preserve the heathen. You know, this is the doctrine that the Lord is going to save the Moabites, the Ammonites, and the Edomites for slaves. Let them live. Let them breathe the air. You know, let them eat. They're going to have to keep the Passover. They're going to have to keep the Feast of Dedication. You're going to have to keep all the laws. You have to keep the new moon, but destroy his own people forever off the face of this earth. But keep the heathen around. They can keep the laws, right? And those that don't rebel and get down, you know, they may not be whipped like that, man. They may just be, yes, sir, yes, yes, right? They may be doing what they got to do, and you govern your cities, but his own people, the apple of his eye, he's going to waste and murder and just smear off the face of this earth forevermore. But those that have murdered, right, their ancestry are going to be able to live upon this earth, man. That makes no sense. The Lord said, and it was revealed in mine ears by the Lord of hosts, surely this iniquity shall not be purged till ye die. So if you don't bask in the mercy and blood of Yahushua, and that rest upon you, the Lord's going to require blood. And the blood he's going to require is your blood, since you didn't take that opportunity of Yahushua's blood. So you're going to be the one that has to be purged from all your sins by death, saith the Lord, right? But, moving on. I would, like I said, I would look at that breakdown through the spirit, right? It says, Caramel, how to stay strong in the last days, right? That you don't know no one around you in his truth. My dad, right, will let me go to camp right near me because he does not. I think you mean he will not let you go, right? Because he does not like me in his truth, right? Well, what I would do is I would take opportunity, right, to link up with sisters, maybe in group chats. I start calls. There's a lot of sisters in this thing that are on fire, man. Right? And I don't know, if you are in sister chats or what you got going on, but like the Lord said, let me get this quick precept, the classic in Ecclesiastes 4. What you can do, sisters, you can hit our email. Now, a large amount of the brothers, in the camp, they have wives. And we know we can link you up with our wives, right? And the sisters. And you be able to, go back and forth, maybe hold a call with those sisters, maybe have somebody to give you counsel. That's very important. These aren't your average sisters on the street that'll tell you God knows what. These are God-fearing women that believe in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that care for your soul, man. And anything too hot for them, they bring it up to their husbands. So if I was you, I would hit the email, probably ask, if their sister calls, can I be able to, have a sister's number, or, build up that friendship. There's nothing strange, weird, creepy, embarrassing about that. We all do uncomfortable things to find this truth, man. Brothers travel miles and link up with a camp they never seen, they never met. You come out there, you meet a brother, you get his information. There's nothing wrong with that, man. You have to really strive for this thing. You got people traveling and walking, 3 to 10 miles to go to work every day. People chasing their dreams, going all the way to California. So if you really want this thing, right, it may not be physical for on foot because of your father. Well, I'm not sure how old you are, but you most definitely want to link out on the internet, right, via the email, via social media if you have it. And even if you don't have social media, hit up the email. Right? It's a lot that brothers can help, whoever with throughout situations of counsel and through breakdowns and whatever else that's not, taught upon on these cold cuts channels on the email. Right? Let me get this quick precept. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 4, right? In verse, right? And I really want to start at 5. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. Now, by no means are you foolish, but this is the attributes of a man that doesn't work. He doesn't move. He doesn't do anything. He just folds his hands together, waiting for something to happen. Things aren't just going to happen, right? There's going to be, sisters, they falling out of the sky, and, and they come down your chimney, right? Then they dress blowing the wind. And the next thing you know, they got a book, right? And some highlighters, right? It says the fool foldeth his hands, right, together and eateth his own flesh. So the more you wait, the more you're not taking initiative, the more, things aren't, a high priority. You start to fold your hands. You start to get relaxed. You start to just bask in, slothfulness, and things come about you, right? Not you specifically, but just man, as him not taking advantage of opportunities the most I can give you. Better is a handful of quietness, right, than both hands full with travail and vexation of spirit, right? Getting down to the point, right? 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward of their labor. Now, you may not have a congregation or a complete sisterhood, but just one sister, one communication, one call a week, that could do, a whole lot through the spirit. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone. That's a very scary thing if you don't have people to hold you accountable. And you need people to hold you accountable, man. I remember it was a sister. I think she was looking for a sisterhood or something like that. And long story short, I linked her up with my rib, and my rib and her were talking, and she wasn't keeping, she wasn't keeping the Feast of Tabernacles or something to that extent, right? And it's I didn't get all my stuff together. I'll just keep it next year. I'll just keep it next year. Man, my rib was like, no, you got to keep it. Get the stuff you got to get. Go to the store. Make sure you getting your stuff together. Don't be discouraged. I'll just keep it next year, right? So my rib, she admonished her, man. Look, you got to keep these commandments. You got to do this. You got to do that. Right? She kind of got on her righteously, right? And sisters just, she kind of fell away. She didn't like that admonishment. So with having somebody as to hold you accountable, you have a true friend. True friends, they help one another. There is uncomfortable situations you got to have. And being in this truth, you most definitely want a friendship, a bond, and help to be able to push you to go harder, man. Somebody to get on your ASS, like they say. Somebody to push you to righteousness. Somebody to make you pay your bills, make you care for your family, make you go to work, man. Make you keep the laws, make you travel, right? Or whatever the case may be, to go see the sisters. Right? These things may be a righteous spirit of fire that a lot of people need, that they're not taking advantage of. Because if it's of ourselves, we'll be basking in the same situations and the same damn thoughts, and we'll be in the same predicament next year if we still here. It says, when he falleth, for he have not a one to help him up. Right? Now, let me get this quick precept in Ecclesiastes 11. Right? It says, he that observeth the wind, so not so. So if you observe the wind, observing the wind is the same precept as standing there with your arms folded, man. You just observing the wind. You're not putting in no work. You're not like busting a move. Certain people gotta the shake, like they say, make stuff shake, man. Right? Like you read about in the book of Luke, the 16th chapter, man. Right? Yeah, that man, he started making deals, right? And the Lord commended the unjust servant, man. Right? It says, he that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. So if you stand still too long, you're not going to see the fruit of your labor of things you could have been doing as you start working, man. Right? It says, as thou knowest not the way of the spirit, how the bones do grow in the womb, right? Of her as with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. I mean, you don't know if you'll prosper or not. You don't know if that one time reaching out can yield forth into an abundance of a congregation, or whatever the case may be. So you want to take advantage, right, of the mercies of the Most High, and so reap and do the things that are in the scriptures to be able to obtain, right, that sisterhood and that bond, right, that you need in these last days. Right, but with that, I'm about to get this last closing precept. Like I said, if we didn't get to your question, most high willing, we're gonna dive into it with another Q&A very soon. Right? It's the book of Revelation, chapter 3, in verse number 2. Be watchful and strengthen the things, right, which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come to thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So you want to watch in these last days. You want to be diligent. You want to repent, and you want to keep the commandments and the fear of the Most High. Right? And in the last days, right, you want to maintain integrity, man. Don't fall away through lust and wickedness and hatred of your people and getting caught up in doctrines. Make sure that whatever you do, you keeping the Most High first and you fearing the Most High. Most High willingness was edifying. I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashima Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Shalom.